Yo, what is up, guys? Troll King Films here. And yet, no, I'm not dead. It was Easter. I was on vacation. I was doing all that nice stuff. So I was not able to record and get a video out, but I am getting a video out now. What I'm going to be doing here is recording a video for benchmarks and a review of the GTX 960 super clocked version with 4 gigabytes of GDDR5 RAM. Now this is the EVGA version with their ACX 2.0 cooler, so I can't speak for any other card but this one. So please, no hate. I can only speak for this card. I can't talk about like the G4, the Asus one or anything like that. So now let's go to a front view of the card. Now this is the front, basic stuff, twin ACX 2.0 cooler, PCIe slot, same normal stuff you see on every card like this. Now let's go to a side view. This is the 3 copper heat pipes that are contacting the chip to keep the card cool. And now to the back. This is the back plate that is also meant to keep the card cool by resonating the heat. Now onto the benchmarks. First is 3D Mark Firestrike. Now this is only the 1080p one, the basic one. And this is probably the most graphically intensive out of all the benchmarks that I'm doing. So I was kind of expecting it to not do so well, but for being a $250 card, it performed relatively well. I forgot to put an FPS counter on this, but as you can see here, it's staying pretty much right around 20 frames at this point. It's going to drop whenever they start to fight here, but for now it's staying in the mid to high 20s, not quite hitting 30, but as you can see here, it's dropping to about 15 to 17 frames, which is much better than my previous card, I will say, because my previous card was a GTX 750 Ti, which with this scene I would get about 7 FPS max. So this card is a very big step up from the previous card. And on to the next benchmarks. Now this benchmark is Unison Valley. This is cranked up to 1080p ultra high settings. And as you can see, it's staying in the high 40s, high 50s, at some point reaching 60 FPS. And for this benchmark, that's actually not overly impressive because there is a lot to render in, but for some reason it's never been quite as intensive as Unison Heaven, which I'll show next. But for a $250 card, again, this is actually very good. And honestly, I was pretty impressed with this one. And I think my temperatures are pretty good too. I don't think I ever went above about 80 degrees Celsius this whole time under the heaviest loads. So that's pretty impressive. I'm so far very satisfied with this card. And okay, on to the next benchmark. Alright, now here we are with the next set of benchmarks. And we're actually going to watch this one all the way through, or rather, I'll just skip it from when I stop talking to right near the end where you can see the score. But anyway, this is actually a very graphically intensive benchmark. Probably the second most graphically intensive next to 3D Mark Firestrike. But it's still a very, very difficult benchmark to run. And as you can see, my card's staying in the high 30s, mid 40s, lower 50s, even going up to 80, 90 frames per second on some of the sky scenes. So this was probably the one that actually impressed me the most. I wasn't expecting a jump like that, because this was on my 750 Ti. To get 30 frames per second, I would have to run ultra high with tessellation at medium. Actually, no, moderate tessellation. This actually has normal tessellation and it has anti-aliasing. My 750 Ti could not do anti-aliasing. So this is very impressive to me. I'm actually loving this card so far. And okay, I'm going to skip to the score now so you can see what I got for that. So here it is. Here is the final score. A score of 1,380. Wow. Actually pretty impressive for this. On to the next benchmarks in a second. Okay, so this is some live footage. This is Star Wars Battlefront. This is running at 1080p ultra settings, which is actually very impressive for me. Actually, no, not really, because I'm not gonna lie, Battlefront isn't that hard of a game to run despite how pretty that it looks. But I was very pleased to see that it was in the hundreds, actually, because I actually love playing this game. I think it's, even though it's not that hard to run, it is still a beautiful game. And impressively, actually, this card is able to run 4K with this game at 60 frames per second. Yeah, I can use dynamic super resolution to turn this up to 4K, and I can, if I tune my settings down to about medium with about a 50 depth of field, I can run this game at 4K 60 FPS, which for a $250 card is actually genuinely impressive to me. I know I've said that multiple times now, but being able to run 4K even on a game like this is still impressive. Moving on. Now this is the last live game I'm going to do. This is Fallout 4. And as you all know, this is a pretty graphically intensive game. But I'm not sure why, but there was a little bit of micro stuttering going on here, even though it was only at 1080p ultra settings. I don't know. I'm guessing it was just that my computer had just booted up again or something, because I'm not getting this anymore while I play. I don't know. I'm not exactly sure what was up with it. But anyway, yeah, here is Fallout 4. Now I'm going to move on to my final review for this card. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, it is time for my final verdict on this card. And I'm going to have to say that for $250, this is honestly a great card. I don't know what else to say about it, to be honest with you. Great price, $250, very affordable. Only requires a 500 watt power supply with one 8-pin connector. And even if you don't have an 8-pin connector and you have two 6-pin connectors, it does come with an adapter to switch it over to 6 pins. 8 pins. Jeez, can I talk today? Obviously not. So honestly, I would recommend this card to anybody that's looking for a high performance graphics card in the $200 to $300 range. Although one thing I will say is, whenever you go to buy this, do not, I repeat, do not buy the 2GB version. Just for example, on Amazon, the 200, it's about $230 on sale right now for the 4GB card with a super clocked. And for $5 less, that's the 2GB version. So honestly, if you're going to buy this card, spend the extra $5 and get the 4GB of VRAM. Trust me, you will not regret getting 4GB of VRAM for this. Mostly because it future-proofs the card. Because this just here, this is Shadow of Mordor running at high settings. And honestly, it's amazing. Although you will see that in this quick little bit here, I accidentally capped the FPS at 30, so I was sitting there wondering why it was only running at 30, and it didn't make any sense until I went back and saw the settings and it was capped at 30. Anyhow, yes, I would recommend this card if you're looking for a card anywhere in the $200 to $300 range. The cooling on this card kept it very cool, only really ramping up the fans whenever I got above 65 degrees Celsius, and even then it didn't pass 80 degrees Celsius. So in the end, yes, I would advise getting this card. Do it. It's worth your time. Just trust me on this one. And I guess that's all that I really need to say about this card. Thank y'all for tuning into this video, and I will see you guys in the next video. Peace.